Yes, and we're at it yet another time. Let's talk leadership right here on the Savvy Singers TV. And we did promise you a second part, and Uncle Richard have agreed, and he's here on set with us. And we're going to continue our discussion. We spoke about a couple of things the last time, positional leaders, situational. We discussed the importance of leadership.
Yep.
Yeah. And we want to continue the conversation, Uncle Richard. Sure. And tell me, at different styles of leadership, we spoke about the autocratic leader. What are some of the others?
Well, we talk about laissez-faire. Laissez-faire, sort of easygoing type leadership, friendly leaders, a little bit too friendly sometimes. You have democratic leaders who tend to want to sort of poll the group and hear opinions and so on. So those tend to be the more popular styles. And the follow-up question usually is, well, which one is the best one? It really depends on the situation. Here I am with the depends again. It depends on the situation. I mean, if you think of a lot of what we do in business organizations, we learn from the military. A lot of what we do, we learn from the military. Yes. And if you think of being on a battlefield, the lieutenant is usually the most senior person on the battlefield, right? So the LT is there, shouting commands, whatever it is. The LT doesn't have time to have a meeting to discuss formation, strategy, on the field when the battle is
in
hot.
the middle of the battle.
No, can't do that. The LT makes a decision and gives a command, and the command is supposed to be heard and executed, and we'll follow that command. If you survive, afterward we can have a discussion about it. No, so that's a particular type of scenario, situation that requires very autocratic leadership. And that's why in the military you hear so much about command and control. Because it's necessary in those situations. However, if we're in a different type of organization, then we may want to do a little bit more collaboration, a little bit less autocracy. So it's not about bad or good, it's just what works in the situation and what gives us the outcome that we're looking for.
Do you think leaders have a challenge moving through these different styles or traits as leaders? I'm autocratic, right? But based on the situation, would I lead? Or you talk about structure of the organization as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, we as leaders, or we as people, we have a style of our own.
Right.
So I have a particular style of behaving, acting, operating in the world. We call it your behavioral style, or some people say personality.
Right.
And you would find, I have found, that people's leadership style tends to be very close to their personality.
That's true.
So if that is the case, then, and we now ask your question, do people have trouble moving through? Then the question would be, well, do people have trouble shifting or bending their personality or their behavior? Yeah. It's tough to be something that you're not for too long.
Right.
So theoretically, all behavioral styles sit in each human, but each human has
more
greater comfort, dominance if you want, with this particular style or this particular hand as a right hand versus this particular hand. And so, can I use my left hand? I can, but it takes more effort. And if I have to do it for a very long time, it's going to deteriorate in terms of how much I do. Now, if I do it often enough, long enough, then there comes a point in time where I can get skillful. But that's tough. It takes a lot of energy to do that. Not impossible, just difficult.
Just difficult to do. Right. So we spoke about the different styles, the different types. How important, I know we touched it briefly in the first segment, how important is the role of leadership to any organization, situation, church, corporate, home?
Somebody needs to be in charge of something.
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't have to be in charge of the whole.
Right.
This is something I like to say. I mean, you do not have to be in charge of all of it to be a leader. So if we take the church, I may not be the pastor, but I may be the head of music.
The department leaders.
Right. That's a type of leadership as well. I may be in charge of cleaning the church on a Saturday afternoon because there's Sunday morning service, assuming you have service on a Sunday. Right? So in the home, I may not be the minister of home affairs, but I'm the minister of finance. Different roles. And so you can have different roles. You need to be clear about the role.
Right.
This is the challenge now. You have to be clear about that role, and that clarity sometimes, if the vision and the mission is where we want to go, mission is how we're going to get there, is not clear to everyone. Sometimes you end up in little, knick-knack wahala, as the West Africans say, problems, trouble. because it's tough for a number of people to come together, having different roles, working towards one objective, but seeing it differently.
Right.
I hope I'm not confusing it. Am I confusing it?
No, and you said something, and I want you to go deeper into
Okay,
that.
tell me.
What about leaders that micromanage?
Yeah. So there's a personality style that believes if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Right.
Right?
And you also have leaders,
Mm-hmm.
but you will give a task, a responsibility, but because of that personality, you end up doing it yourself.
But in fairness to those people, there are also followers whose hands are not safe.
Wow.
Meaning you give them something to do, and if you don't follow up with them and go after them and make sure it gets done, it won't get done. They will tell you at 5 to 11 and the project kicks off at 11, it ain't done. If they tell you, I was really supposed to do it, but
Something come up.
So in all fairness to those leaders, there's also that type of challenge. And sometimes it's a big risk point. So the issue might be small, but it is a point where it's like a hinge on a door.
Yeah.
The whole door falls down. Because it's so many things are contingent upon it.
Wow.
So I don't advocate for micromanagers. I try to stay away from that. But a lot of that depends on the structure of the organization. You know, if you have, let's use a church, because an organization is just that. It's an organized group of people working towards some objective. So whether it's a church, we're working on a barbecue, curry queue, China queue, it's a corporation, doesn't matter. It's
That's
an
right,
organization,
sir.
right?
That's right.
So we're working in an organization. If the organization has the kind of structure, one, and the people with the competencies, knowledge, skill, behavior, to do, and they have safe hands. So they've shown that they have safe hands. They take feedback,
Right.
then it's a little bit easier for a leader to rest and say something I like to say, well, I have people for that.
Right.
And so I don't have to do it.
Right.
Because there's somebody else who's they're not just going to do it, they're going to ensure it's done.
Right.
And if something goes wrong, they're safe enough, they're wise enough, they're experienced enough to either find a solution or find me in time so that we can come up with something that
Right.
will save the day,
Right.
whatever the day
That's
is.
awesome.
But if you don't have that, or if you don't have the confidence that you have that, then as a leader, you don't really have a choice.
Right.
You're going to be every chief cook, bottle washer in every corner, checking, making sure. And to be honest with you, some types of organizations require that kind of leadership because you simply do not have the structure, the bodies, or the competencies to get everything done without the leader being in all these places and running ragged.
Well, I think that's where your company comes in. Because if we trying to grow our organization, whatever, and it's growing. So then I cannot always be
Everywhere. Yeah,
doing
literally.
everything, right? So then if we don't have the competency,
Right.
then we have to embark now on aggressive training and development.
So, but even before, we have to get the right material. So there's this assumption that we can just grab people and you train them. I say this to leaders all the time. I say, if you give me the poor material, it's going to be really hard and sometimes impossible to get them into the form that you want them. Because remember, go back to the personality. People's brains are wired differently. Not everyone is suited to calculus. Not everyone is suited to emotional intelligence. Some people are more or less so. Not everyone is good as a dancer, singer, musician. Some people have different skills,
That's
talents
it,
in
and sometimes-
every business,
Wow.
every organization.
And sometimes we place people in the wrong position.
Square pegs, round holes. And then we get big hammers. And we try to bang them in. And then we say, well, you're not doing it right. Let's train them up. And I go, well, wait a minute. Did you even hire the right people in the first place? Did you select the right people? Forget hire. Maybe it's not a type of organization.
Right.
Wherever, did you select the right competencies in the first place? And many organizations, that's the wrong question. You have to ask, do they even know what the right competencies are? Do they even
To
know?
some, it's just availability.
Yeah, because some organizations, it's just, well, that who we go put? Somebody we were talking
talking
about that
about
in the last episode, who we go put? We need someone. So this is a tough thing,
Yeah,
It's tough. And I mean, for us for me as an organization development consultant, I work with leaders, I work with organizations. I see the struggle.
Yes.
It's not easy to select the right people, find some markets, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Some markets you can't find the right people.
Right.
Because it's the pool is shallow.
Yeah, and you're talking about, and the next question begs me, how do leaders deal with other leaders in the group?
Right.
All right, and their trying to assert themselves. Because you know something happens, and because you can tell, right? You see the personalities and everything is shooting.
Right.
But I am so there's positional leadership.
Yes.
That's right. And you can help us go into that a little bit. But how do we deal with that and other leaders that are rising, right? And how we manage those conflicts?
So, I mean, positional leadership is your weakest form of leadership.
Wow.
People don't usually follow you just because
Because
you're
you're in position. Exactly.
As a matter of fact, you get into a position and you show yourself to be less than worthy of that position, they get out from behind you very quickly. So, positional leadership is real.
Yes.
Or positional power is real. Because if an organization appoints you,
Right.
then you have the power of the appointment.
Right.
But you don't always get the followership.
Right.
Simply because you don't have what is called the referent power, to be liked, to be respected, to be seen as being whole and solid and balanced. That's what people want. People want to be respected and so on. So if we put people in positions, but they're not able yet, we have to build them up. And part of an organization's growth is, just going back to what you said, a leader can't be everywhere. We've got to bring people up. We have got to tolerate mess ups.
That's it.
We've got to tolerate egos. So if I'm the CEO, let me speak from at that level. I've got to tolerate the growth of this person, who I see has some talent, who I see has a future, but they're gonna have to grow literally, and that's not a quick process. It's slow.
Correct.
And they're gonna make messes. They're gonna make bad decisions. I have to be able to tolerate that. I'm gonna have to give them feedback, but if they're coachable, if they're teachable,
right.
and this for me, this is the big thing, is that leader who's coming up, or even at the top of the organization, are they coachable and are they teachable? I have had clients, organizations contact me and say, will you coach this person? We'd like to assign you as a coach. And I say, well, let's meet standard, online or in person, when we could have met in person. And we have a conversation. And there have been times I've said, nope, nope, the fit is not right. And then they would, they usually would press me. What do you mean the fit is not right? Because can't you coach anyone? I said, well, not really. I mean, not everyone is coachable.
Right.
Or not everyone is coachable by me. You know what I mean? Because the conditions for success are not present. And that's real.
Yes,
and sometimes it's just a matter of, you don't gel. But the point there is that if that person is coachable, if they are teachable, then humans can change.
Yeah.
Humans can grow if they want to.
If they want
to. And this is not an exception for leaders.
Right.
Leaders also have that ability.
Right. And I'll take us to the next point that I want to speak to about successorship. All right, leaders, and give us your take on that and your experience in working with organization. And sometimes we will have everything else in the structure, but not that.
Succession planning is what the HR people like to call it.
Right.
Having people getting ready for the role, and usually it's those roles that are most critical, and or most difficult to replace or get someone to replace those people. It's all over the map, It's all over the map. I mean, in my head, there's a famous case of some European shipbuilding company. They built this great ship, and the executives were flying via private jet from one country or one place to another to christen the ship. This is a real story. And the private jet flew into a mountain. Wow. Everyone died.
Jesus.
So the next morning, the whole top layer, 2 levels of the organization were dead.
Wow.
And they were not ready. I mean, that's kind of morbid, but it happens where organizations are not preparing people for successorship. And then there are those organizations, I've seen organizations that really work hard at it, identify their most critical positions, which is what you should be doing, and say, who's a handful of people who possibly, this is not you will get the job. We will promote you when this person dies, retires, whatever it is. But you possibly could fill the role. What's your gap between where you are and what that role requires? And what do we need to do over the next few weeks, months, or years, usually it's years, to get you ready to fill that position.
Right.
Some companies do it really well. I'm not going to name any, just like I'm not going to name any that have done it really badly. But some do it really well and prepare, and they take opportunities. So Marlon is head of the department, and Marlon goes off on vacation. We put someone in that role. and they feel, or Marlon is on a 2-day training. Person shadows Marlon, learning.
Right.
And so there's that
Right.
learning on the
Right.
job, and there's coaching, because sometimes I've coached people to sort of close gaps with specific things. There's training outside of the organization. People go and do whole degrees just to get ready to be able to be in a position and fill it
Right.
well, you know. But it's something you must do.
must
And I think one of the biggest things that stands in the way is the leaders themselves. Because not all jobs that require successors are senior positions. If you work in a
Right.
warehouse, a forklift driver is a critical job.
Yes.
We can't get anything out of the warehouse
Yeah,
if
he's
the forklift
not.
driver is not there. Right? In most organizations, though, we're looking at CEO and vice
Right, we look at
president,
those, the top-
kinds of positions.
Yeah.
They have to be prepared to share and to be open and to be willing. Sadly, in some organizations that are not as structured as that, people protect their knowledge, and I don't want them to know.
Yes.
And that's a problem,
It is.
you know,
It
because
is.
they don't see that they see themselves wrong. They don't see themselves as conductors, because that's what the leaders do, conducting the orchestra.
Right.
Right, and preparing
That
and, te- and-
picture,
and
right.
telling this musician, okay, you need to
Is prepared,
adjust.
your time coming.
Come on, yeah, you know, come up a little bit louder. I need more from you, or stop. Give a little instruction. Let's go again.
Wow.
So many leaders don't feel that strength in themselves, where they feel like, yeah, nobody's going to take my role. Nobody's going to take your position.
That's
Nobody
it.
taking your position.
Because I think some people have that concept that, you know, or the fear, could we use that word, that they would be replaced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually that's not how it works. As a matter of fact, I'll use and I cite an example. When Jack Welch ran General Electric, one of the things that he did a lot of things, some of them more popular and others not so much, but one of the things that he did is he would say to his senior leaders, you are not promotable unless there's someone in your division to be promoted into your position. So if you've not promoted anyone, then you can't get a promotion because you're stuck there. There's nobody to take your job.
Yes.
Which is a very
yes.
interesting way to look at
Wow.
it, you know?
When you say that and it takes me to Maxwell, as you pointed out, a lot of us know about Maxwell. He talks about the 21 irrefutable
Laws of
laws,
leadership.
and one of them is the law of the lid.
Law of the lid,
Yeah.
Leaders holding, sometimes people, but even the organization back.
Yes.
Just can't go beyond this position. It's sort of a limiting factor.
Wow.
You know? So
Wow.
leaders have to do that work. And I'll tell you what I think brings it home for many leaders, when you realize as a leader that the organization will outlive you. Unless you are the organization, which is a little bit different. So if you're a one-person show, maybe you are creative and you create, and that's it. You didn't build an organization around you. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Although the world tells us we need to build big organizations, that's not true for everybody, right? So you haven't built a large organization around you. That's very different to where you have an actual organization. There are people coming to work there every day, customers and suppliers, and you know, lines of credit and all that stuff. You know, if it's a church, you've got people coming in every service, the members of the church, they're contributing, the community depends on you constantly. There's so many things going on. And you, meaning the church, that institution, that organization will more than likely outlive you, the leader. And therefore, you have a responsibility to prepare the organization to function without you being there.
That's right. That's right. So much so in that particular.
Yes, because it leaves a big void
Yeah.
when the organization can't do what it's meant to do while you're there. And the only way you prepare people, when you're not there, the only way you prepare people is by giving them an opportunity to try.
Right.
Do things.
While
coach them
you were there.
While you're there, yeah.
Yeah, because I think sometimes the sad thing is that we wait until that person is no longer there. And then we try. Then it's, in my mind, I think it's like you're building from ground zero again, right? And something that somebody has lived and their legacy and stuff. So what about that? So that's a very, very good point.
I think some leaders are threatened.
Right. Trust. Trust.
Maybe trust in terms of followers.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's small p politics in organizations as well. All of them. It doesn't matter the type of organization. Every single one, you see the position plays on the agendas and people looking to secure their little position and so on. You know, and Les Brown famously says, you can't get out of life alive. You know, there's only one way out.
I mean,
and you can only do so much.
It's so simple but powerful, you know, and sometimes we hold on to these little things.
And you can't take it.
That's it.
You really can't take it.
That's it.
So
That's it. And I think it's so much when we talk about legacy building and all these different aspects, that even while you're not there, you know, the brand, the name, the
Yes.
policy, the concept
Yes.
still live
Still
on.
lives on, yeah.
But then the groundwork needs to be there,
Needs to
the
be in
structure
place.
needs to
Yes,
be there,
yeah.
the succession planning. There's so many different
And let me
factors.
speak to the people. And I
Yes.
want to say this.
Talk to us. Talk
There
to
are
us.
people who don't want any of that.
Right.
They're not interested in leaving no legacy and coaching up no set up. No, there are people like that. They would much rather be what we call individual contributors. They're in a little corner and they're doing the little work for themselves.
Right.
And maybe they're very good at it, yeah?
Yes.
But they're not interested in building. That's fine. But that kind of leadership is not for you.
Yeah.
Where you run an organization, it's
Right.
not for you. If you want to be that person, then go ahead, go in your corner, or wherever in the world, do your work, do whatever it is, do good work, and leave a name. You know, just leave all
True.
of that you've
True.
done. But if you're going to run an organization, then you have to be prepared to bring people up under you.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, you're robbing the organization.
Wow.
Its future. Even before it's gotten there, you've started to take away from it because it's going to be more impoverished and weak, not prepared to deal with the realities of the future, whatever those might be.
That's very loaded right there,
Yeah.
Richard. Because reality is, and sometimes because you sit back and you look at organizations or situations and you actually see that, you know, you talk about they're weak and they have years behind them.
Yeah.
But then what is that? What is happening at this point in time? You know, or organization that just is reliving an experience
Over and
or past successes.
Yes.
Reliving.
I know of organizations, and I see it a lot in this, what they call the civic community.
Right.
So that'll be credit unions, trade unions, even churches, other houses of worship. You see that kind of thing where not only do you have what you just described, but there are leaders who have been there forever.
Yes.
Forever. And they're just there. And the organization really hasn't gone anywhere.
No
Or it has
way.
gotten to a position
And
of
that's
success.
it.
And that's it.
Plateaued.
That's right. So it's gotten to a plateau, hasn't gone anywhere any beyond that. And you see people sitting down in the organization with name, title positions, but not doing very much.
Right.
Because they're not allowed to do very much.
Right.
And I empathize with leaders who've been around for a long time because they see the world a particular way.
Right. Right.
You know, they came up in a time when the world looked a certain way and roles were crafted a certain way. So it's kind of tough now to let go
Yes.
and let someone else who, as far as they are concerned, just come the other day. And in the context of their lifetime, that's true.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
so but
yes, yes.
sometimes leaders have to let go. And I mean, you know, take the emeritus position, you know, become the, I don't know, chairperson emeritus. Keep the title for life.
Right.
But you're
Right.
doing nothing. Let people do the work.
Right.
And ever so often you come in and you ask some tough questions
Correct.
and
More
you
management.
mentor a little bit. Not even
Right.
management, more mentor.
Mentor.
I wouldn't even say coach.
Right.
You know,
Right.
provoke even. Why are we not doing this? You feel that, is that really our vision? Is that really our mission? Have we lost our way? You know, ask those questions in quiet corners and leave them to think. You know, to build their own wisdom.
Wow. That's awesome.
You know, as opposed to trying to run it all yourself, because you lose energy too after. And it could
I
have been
mean, there's so much you can do. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Richard Solomon, on the inside of the Savvy Singers TV. We're talking leadership, and oh gosh, it's going good. I just want to thank you so much for bringing your wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. In a couple seconds, I want to give you clues and remarks as we round this
Yes.
this discussion
Yeah.
to our viewers.
Well, leadership is influence, and if you, given the scenario, given the situation, can influence others to accomplish whatever is important for that organization, then you are a leader. But you have to consider, am I the type of leader that will help this organization to have the kind of success in the future? And two, am I prepared to do the growing, the development, the learning that will help me to be able to continue to help the organization, not just for today, but in the long term as we create a brave new world. You know, not everyone has to be a leader.
Yes.
In order to have leaders, we need followers.
Yes.
So sometimes our best position to hold is followership.
Wow. Sometimes your best position to hold is followership. And eventually, you know, if it's in you with the right training, the right information, you can promote yourself up, or through the ranks, you can get there. So thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for being here with us and allowing us into your space. And we will be back next week, 4 p.m. every Sunday, right here at the PRV and Performing Arts Academy. It's Savvy Singers TV. See you soon.